So look, just very quickly, as you heard from that, so the story is it's set in Danbury, which is a UK every town. Chemical spill unleashes an infection, which Wheatley calls a weapon in that interview, which initially turns the residents of the local retirement home into lively flesh-eating zombies. It then turns out that because it's to do with how effective your immune system is, it can infect the young, but the young basically don't survive it, whereas the elderly do. And the comparison that you used with Cocoon and that he used with Threads, it is basically Cocoon goes to hell, or more accurately, Cocoon goes to hell meets Threads and attack the block via Scooby-Doo. And I think that actually all those elements work well together, because alongside the kind of the OAP zombie outbreak, you've also got, as you said in that interview, a very well observed group of teenagers who, and I think this goes back to Attack the Block, a film about which I think I was wrong when it came out. I think it's a much better film than I gave it credit for. I think that thing about the way in which they then have to deal with the plague whilst also dealing with all the other things about being a teenager. So there's, there's love and there's lust and there's friendship and there's betrayal. And in one particularly, I mean, when you get to episode 4 for me was the mother lode. There is a particularly marvelous moment in which they have to break off from fighting the army of the undead in order to do their geography A level. Which I think was kind of, really, really well observed. Robert Lindsay's, the old rebel who may be a savior, but he is kind of like an advanced version of Wolfie Smith. And I think all that stuff about, they pull out their phones, and at one point there's a scene in which there was this brutal thing going on. Why are you filming this? It's because that's what happens. The incident is passed off as a virulent strain of COVID. There is stuff about the wake of Brexit. And there's the stuff about questioning everything, particularly conspiracies. I'm really glad you honed in on that. But that point that he makes about Civil War and the Alex Garland connection, about, of course, he understands that connection I think is really evident there. As I said, for me, episode 4 was the point at which it was like, okay, fine. I know we've had this discussion about if you say something gets good in episode 4, no, it's good up until then. But episode 4 was the point at which everything kind of really comes together. There is some very dark material. There's some very dark material at one point about an old man having been infected, going back to visit his family. And there is a really sort of chilling sort of depiction of tables being turned. Actually reminded me of the scene in Clockwork Orange in which Alex gets beaten up by the tramps. And he talks about with their feeble rookers and horny old claws, it was old age having a go at youth. And I actually thought there was an element of that in here. I mean, Wheatley's right. It is in the Well House of Kill List, Down Terrace. And of course, he has done stuff in television before, but this is the first series that's completely his. I think he relished the expanded canvas. I think he loved the fact that there was space to do more character development, to just have those incidental moments. Because obviously in Meg 2, aka Jason Statham Shark Puncher, it's not really about character development. It's about Jason Statham punching a shark. And I do feel that, although, I enjoyed Meg 2 very much, that this kind of felt like Ben stretching his arms, and I enjoyed it. Like I said, episode 4, that's the big one.